I have to assume that if you clicked on this YouTube video, you already know something about the Fawn Lodge located in Fawnskin, California. This is the fourth part of a 5-part series on the history of the lodge. To make the most sense out of the presentation, I would suggest that you start by watching the first 3 sections. In this presentation, we cover the later years of the Wilson family ownership of the Fawn Lodge. I have to assume that if you clicked on this YouTube video, you already know something about the Fawn Lodge located in Fawnskin, California. This is the fourth part of a 5-part series of the history of the lodge. To make the most sense out of this presentation, I would suggest that you start by watching the first 3 parts. In this presentation, we will cover the later years of the Wilson family ownership of the Fawn Lodge. In the years that Glenn and Jackie Wilson owned the Fawn Lodge, they are probably the most remembered by many of the residents of Fawnskin and Big Bear. The Fawn Lodge restaurant was the place to go for any of the family celebrations. It was famous for its steak dinners. The best photographs that we can find of the inside of the lodge comes from newspaper advertisements and travel brochures of the lodge, which we will look at next. Here is a half-page ad taken out by Glenn Wilson on the 25th year of operation of the Fawn Lodge. The photos on the left are from 1946. The photos on the right are labeled as being current day, which would have been 1971. Now let's take a look at some of the individual photographs to get a better insight to the interior of the Fawn Lodge. The photographs on the right are better captured in an oversized postcard from the 1970s, which we will see later on in this presentation. In the far right corner of the photograph, we see a Rotary Club banner. The Rotary Club would meet at the cafe in the late 1940s. The photographer of this photograph was standing with his back to the front door of the cafe when this picture was taken. The fireplace is off camera to the right. This photograph was taken with the photographer standing at the end of the bar with his back to the front of the building. Behind the male customer sitting at the bar was a doorway that led to a hallway. This hallway had entranceways to the bar, lobby, and 2 of the stores that were on the far left of the building. Next to the hallway at the shop end was a men's and women's restroom. To the right of the Schlitz advertisement shown in the photograph, there was a pass-through window for the cook to serve meals to those customers in the bar. Glenn, Jackie, and Robbie Wilson, the most famous owners of the Fawn Lodge and restaurant known as the House of Wilson. Robbie and Glenn are only ones pictured. In this 1958 Grizzly article, the Chamber of Commerce has a meeting to have sketches made up to give a town a more Western look. The Fawn Lodge, among other buildings, were supposed to get that treatment. There is more to this article which follows. Mort Traylor, a local artist, was commissioned to make up those sketches. At a later time, Mort painted the indoor mural of the Fawn Lodge, giving its Western look. In this last section of the article, we learned that the sketches were to include false front structures for vacant lots. This was to include a jail complete with gallows next to the market. Now, what could possibly go wrong with children around a gallows? The jail structure was built, but not the gallows. Here is a photograph of that Fawnskin Territorial Jail with the children behind bars. This is an advertisement from the 1965 rodeo program edition of the Big Bear Grizzly, with a very clear photograph of the Fawn Lodge with its new Western look. Now let's take a closer look at that photograph. Note that the bark siding on the building is now gone. The white fencing on the second story and the wagon wheel located at the entranceway of the Fawn Lodge does give it that Western look. A railing to tie up horses has also been added. It is doubtful that it was ever used for that purpose. This railing disappeared in the coming years. Now let's look at the interior to see what changes were made. This is a cropped advertisement for the House of Wilson that was published in the March 1962 Grizzly. Again, we see that iconic fireplace that was so often used in souvenir photographs. The tables now seat more than 2 people and had white tablecloths. The wood fence type barriers gives the Western look as well. To the left of the fireplace is a 50-foot long painting of the Old West. A January 1959 Grizzly article described the lodge as follows. The interior of Fawn Lodge, with its massive fireplace of native stone, features Western decor with murals depicting scenes of the wide open spaces, 6-shooter lamp bases, and a fenced dining area. A shadow box with a mountain quail mounted in the foreground shares interest in the cocktail lounge with a vivid array of matchbook covers collected over a wide area. The shadow box was actually in the cocktail lounge, and the matchbook bar was actually a wire strung across 2 posts with various matchbook covers draped over the wire. In this photograph, note that the railing separating the counter area from the table section. Also, there is a leather couch in front of the fireplace. This also gives you a look at the left side of the mural. This section of the mural that was on the right side of the fireplace was a shorter section. This photograph is from Rob and Judy Wilson collection. That's Rob standing to the left. The painting on the wall is another Mort trailer painting. The wall that the painting is hung on separates the dining room from the bar. At one time the wall was not there, and this allowed the piano that was in the bar to be quickly and easily moved to the dining area when requested. This slide has the entire menu of the House of Wilson restaurant. We will now take a closer look at the main parts of this menu. I will give you a couple of seconds to look this over now. All of the specialty items came with soup or salad, potatoes, French bread, and coffee. Get a load of those prices. Grilled fillet of haddock was $3.25. Seafood platter, $3.50. Mountain trout was the most expensive of the specialties at $4.25. Moving down the menu to the broiler section, New York steak for $6.75, and then $3.25 for the ground sirloin steak. Notice on the bottom right, the Johnny Burger or Susie Burger was only $1. This concludes Part 4 of the history of the Fawn Lodge. Don't forget to check out Part 5 of this series. If you enjoyed this presentation and want to know more about Big Bear history, come join us at the Big Bear Valley Museum at 800 Greenway Drive, Big Bear City. We're open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. every Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday from Memorial Day weekend to Labor Day weekend.